So today we're going to be working on coding problem 3.2.5. In this problem, you first want to calculate the value for a variable called amount. The way we calculate this value is by using the given equation and providing values for these variables. After calculating amount, we want to compare that value to a given goal value. And depending on the comparison of those numbers, we will either be printing one of these two statements when we run our code. So the way I'm going to do this problem is first I'm going to walk through the logic of how to complete it, but I'm going to make some common mistakes made by students. We'll run the code, see what errors we made, and then we'll go back and correct those errors, walking through how to debug your code if you ever encounter problems. So let's get started. We see right here, import math. Import math is a statement that gives you access to Python's math module, which contains a lot of different functions to mathematically act upon information you have, right? So we're creating the value of a variable called amount. Where do the variables in the equation come from? Well, principal is given to you, and rate and time are also given to you. E is a number that is accessed through import math, right? So we can use these variables like this. Principal times E to the power of, we use a double asterisk for that, rate times time. And make sure you're very aware of where your parentheses are being used because they can make a big difference with the order of operations. So we've now replicated in code this equation given to you. And now we want to compare the value of amount to the given goal variable. All right. So in this problem, there are two potential situations that we care about. In the first one, we're exceeding our goal, which means that the value of our amount variable is greater than the goal variable. The other situation we care about is if the goal is greater than the amount, which means we fell short, right? So those are the two conditions we want to code into our problem, all right? So we do that using conditional statements, right? So we can say if amount is greater than goal, right? What do we want now? Well, we want to calculate the money left over, right? So in this case, if our amount is greater than goal, we get our difference by subtracting goal from amount. So amount minus goal, we can set that equal to a variable called difference, right? Because that's what will go in this statement, extra money, all right? Now, remember the instructions of this homework specifically say to round your values to 2 decimal places, all right? And they give you the code, they provide that to you. And as you can see, we can use the round function as such to get the value of rounded difference. So after we have that value, all we need to do is create a string that says this statement, right? This is what you want to print if this condition executes. So let's say print, and we're going to copy, exceed your goal by. Now what do we do here? We want to concatenate the string, right? We want to combine the value of rounded diff with our print statement. Well, we know that to concatenate we use the plus operator. So here That's our statement. Note that this is incorrect, but it's a common mistake students make. And we'll come back and fix that a little later. So, we want to create an else statement to go along with our if statement, which states the other condition we care about, in which the goal, the given goal variable, is greater than amount, right? We calculate the difference in much the same way. So difference in this case is goal minus amount, because you want the remainder, right? And then we have our rounded difference variable, in which we are rounding our difference to 2 decimal points. Similar fashion, we are concatenating plus rounded difference. All right, so this is the code we've got so far. It's complete, but it's full of errors, right? So let's go ahead and run this code. And this might take a while, so while we're waiting for that, let's look at some of the errors that might have occurred. Notice, think about the data type of rounded difference and whether or not it would be allowed in Python to concatenate a string like this. Here we go. All right. So our first error, it's a name error, and it says name E is not defined. Right. So sometimes students get confused about how exactly to implement functions of the math module into their code, right? Right here it says, remember, you can access E with math.e. So this is the code we're going to use right here. Using E in the code, as we've done right now, doesn't work, because even though you've imported the math module, you need to use a specific piece of code to access the function from the math module, okay? Here's how we do this. We can create a variable, and we can call it E. That's perfectly allowed. E equals math.e. And this time when we run our code, Python knows that this E right here is equal to the E function from the math module. Alternatively, you could take math.e and use it directly in your calculation of amount. You don't have to store it as a variable, but it makes the code a little more straightforward. But it is completely allowed to use math.e directly in your code. All right, and then our other difference, or our other error, excuse me, is what I was talking about with the data types here. So our rounded difference in both of these conditional statements are float data types. And you can't concatenate a string using other data types, which means right here we have to convert a rounded difference into a string, and then we can concatenate it. But those were the most frequent mistakes that I encountered with students in this problem. Accessing the math module and remembering exactly how to concatenate our print statements. Still waiting on that. Some people have asked why there isn't a condition if amount is equal to goal, which would be the other possibility in this conditional family, which is a good thing to point out, but just the instructions tell us to care about these two conditions. So that's all we have to specify in our if-elif statements. And here we go. You'll fall short of your goal by, and this is our rounded difference in string form.